us know. Now let's start with the story. The lavender balloons bobbed against a perfect blue sky as I walked toward my best friend's baby shower. 20 years of friendship with Clarissa had taught me her tells, the slight curve of her lips when she was hiding something, the practiced tilt of her head when she wanted attention. But today something felt different. Wrong. My husband, Branson, sensed it too. His doctor's eyes were always scanning, tracking movements others missed. When his hand gripped mine and he whispered, "We have to go. Now." I should have listened. Instead, I brushed him off, making excuses like I always did for Clarissa. It wasn't until we were halfway home that he said the words that would shatter the foundation of my oldest friendship. 3 simple words that I refused to believe. What I didn't know then was how deep the deception went, or what it would cost me to finally see the truth about the person I thought I knew better than anyone else. We pulled into the circular driveway of Clarissa's suburban home, the gravel crunching under our tires. The house was draped in soft lavender and cream-colored streamers, with clusters of balloons dancing in the gentle spring breeze. Cars lined both sides of the street, more than I expected for what Clarissa had described as an intimate celebration. "Looks like half the town showed up," Branson said beside me, adjusting his collar. He'd been unusually quiet during the drive over. "You know Clarissa?" I replied. "She's never done anything halfway." My husband nodded, but something in his expression seemed off. Branson was usually the social butterfly between us, the one who made friends with strangers in checkout lines and remembered the names of our neighbors' pets. Today, he looked watchful. "You feeling okay?" I asked, placing my hand on his forearm. "Fine," he said, offering a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Just tired from that double shift." I let it slide. Branson's work at the hospital often left him drained, and I didn't want to start Clarissa's baby shower with an argument. We walked up the manicured path to the front door, my arms laden with a gift basket filled with organic cotton onesies, children's books, and the handmade blanket I'd spent the last 3 months knitting. The door swung open before we could knock. "Selena," Clarissa squealed, her arms outstretched. My best friend stood before me, radiant in a floor-length pale pink dress that flowed around her body. Her blonde hair was styled in loose waves, a flower crown perched at the top of her head. Her makeup was impeccable, highlighting her bright blue eyes and rosy cheeks. She looked like something out of a glossy pregnancy magazine, the kind where models with fake bumps sell the dream of maternal bliss. "You look incredible," I said, handing Branson the gift basket so I could embrace her. Clarissa held me at arm's length, her body angled slightly away from mine. "Don't squish the little one," she laughed, patting her stomach. I noticed she wore the bump proudly, but something about the way she touched it felt practiced, almost theatrical. "We wouldn't want that," I said lightly, trying to catch Branson's eye. But he wasn't looking at me. He was scanning the room behind Clarissa, his gaze methodical and sharp, like he was cataloging details no one else noticed. The entryway opened into a transformed living space. Lavender floral arrangements adorned every surface, and a professional photographer moved smoothly through the crowd, capturing staged candids with practiced ease. In the corner, a bartender was mixing mocktails and mimosas behind a marble-topped bar. A neon sign blazed across the far wall in cursive pink letters. "It's a girl." "This is wow," I breathed, taking it all in. "Clarissa, this must have cost." "Don't worry about that," she cut in quickly, waving a perfectly manicured hand. "Most of it was donated. People have been so generous." Branson's eyebrows rose ever so slightly, but he said nothing. Then Alaric appeared. Clarissa's husband of 3 years, tall, angular, with dark hair just beginning to recede at the temples, approached with 2 glasses of champagne. "For the non-pregnant among us," he said with a smile, his British accent crisp and clipped as he handed one to Branson. "Congratulations," Branson said, clinking glasses with him. "First-time fatherhood. Big change coming." "The biggest," Alaric agreed, though his eyes flicked to Clarissa for the briefest moment. Something passed between them, just a flash. A look I couldn't quite decipher. "Selena," a voice called out across the room. I turned to see Opal pushing her way through the crowd, her curly hair bouncing with every step. Behind her trailed Sasha and Gage. My old high school circle, complete again for the first time in years. "It's been forever," Sasha exclaimed, wrapping me in a hug. Her willowy frame was dressed in a gauzy bohemian dress, and despite her clear efforts to scrub up for the event, paint stains still clung stubbornly beneath her fingernails. 6 months is hardly forever," I laughed. "In artist time? It's an eternity," she countered. Opal stood back, arms crossed, observing us with that quietly analytical gaze she'd perfected since becoming a therapist. "How's the counseling center treating you?" I asked her. "Busy as always," she replied. "You know how it is. Everyone needs someone to talk to." Gage lingered at the edge of our little circle, his hands shoved deep into his pockets. Clarissa's younger brother had finally grown into his features since high school, no longer the gangly boy who used to slip notes into my locker when he thought no one was watching. "Nice to see you," he said, his voice low, his eyes meeting mine and holding just a beat too long. "You too," I replied, suddenly hyper-aware of Branson's gaze flicking between us. Clarissa clapped her hands, her voice bright. "Now that Selena's here, I can finally show you all the nursery mock-up. The designer finished the renderings yesterday." She turned and led us upstairs, chattering about organic paint and sustainably harvested timber as we followed her up the steps. Branson fell into step beside me, his fingers brushing lightly against mine. "Notice anything?" he whispered. "Like what?" I asked, keeping my voice low. He shook his head slightly. "Never mind." Later, the second bedroom had been transformed into a vision of soft pinks and creams. A delicate crystal chandelier twinkled overhead, casting tiny flecks of light across the walls. A hand-carved crib sat beneath it, pristine and unused. A whimsical forest mural stretched across the far wall. Deer, rabbits, songbirds painted in muted tones, nestled among flowering trees. In the corner, a plush armchair sat beside a bookshelf already packed with children's classics, the spines crisp and unbent. "It's stunning," Sasha gasped. "Absolutely." I agreed, though a question nagged at me. This level of luxury didn't match what I knew of Clarissa and Alaric's usual tastes, or their budget. Alaric worked in publishing, and Clarissa ran a small nonprofit. This room alone probably cost more than what they made in 3 months. Most of it was donated by vendors who support the Maternal Health Initiative, Clarissa said smoothly, as if plucking the thought straight from my mind. "They want to showcase their products." "That's convenient," Opal remarked, her therapist's skepticism not quite concealed. Clarissa's smile tightened, almost imperceptibly. "It's networking. The best kind." As the others admired the custom wallpaper and cooed over the hand-painted animals, I glanced toward the doorway. Branson stood just inside, his phone out, snapping photos. He wasn't trying to capture memories. He was zooming in, focusing on details, the base of the crib, the chandelier, the labels on a few of the books. When he noticed me watching, he quickly lowered the phone and slipped it into his pocket. Downstairs, the party was in full swing. Games were played, advice cards were filled out, and the gift table looked ready to collapse under its own weight. Branson stayed on the edges, never fully joining. He watched. He texted. The usual warmth he brought to gatherings was gone. During a lull in the festivities, I found him by the drinks table. "What's going on with you today?" I asked, keeping my voice low. "Nothing," he said, eyes still scanning. "Just tired." "You keep saying that, but you're acting weird. You've barely spoken to anyone." He sighed, running a hand through his dark hair. "I'm sorry," he murmured. "I just noticed some things that don't add up." "Like what?" I asked, but before he could answer, the photographer called everyone for a group photo. We gathered around Clarissa, who positioned herself front and center, both hands lovingly framing her stomach like she was guarding the most sacred thing in the world. As the photographer counted down, Branson stepped back, distracted. His gaze locked on something, or someone, across the room. I watched as his brow furrowed, and he pulled his phone out again, typing quickly. Following his line of sight, I spotted a man near the gift table, middle-aged, with salt and pepper hair and rectangular glasses. He wasn't mingling. He wasn't smiling. He was watching Clarissa, and the look on his face, something between concern and confusion, unsettled me. "Who's that?" I whispered to Sasha, nodding subtly in his direction. She squinted, then shrugged. "Maybe one of Alaric's colleagues? Or a family friend." The photographer finished the shot, and the moment passed. Then Clarissa's mother stepped forward, taking command of the room. Patricia Warren, always poised, always dressed to intimidate, lifted her champagne glass. Her blonde bob was severe and symmetrical, a perfect frame for features that had clearly seen more than one surgeon's table. When Clarissa told me she was finally expecting, Patricia began, voice rich with practiced emotion. "I thought of all the silence we've endured, all the waiting. This baby girl is truly a blessing." A pause, one that teetered on the edge of something unspoken. Then applause. Beside me, Branson stiffened. "We have to go," he said, low and urgent. "What? Now?" I whispered, confused. "We can't just leave in the middle of..." "Selena." His hand closed around my wrist. Not hard, but firm, anchoring. His eyes locked with mine, intense and unyielding. "Trust me. We need to go. Branson, this is my best friend's baby shower. I can't just..." "I'll explain in the car." He cut me off. "Please." Something in his tone, not panic, but absolute certainty, made me pause. I nodded, swallowing my frustration. "Fine." I made quick apologies to Clarissa, blaming a hospital emergency. She pouted, her bottom lip jutting out in practiced disappointment, but accepted the excuse. You'd better make it up to me, she said, arms crossed lightly over her belly. I will, I promised, forcing a smile. Lunch. Soon. As we pulled away, the lavender balloons still bobbed in the rearview mirror, shrinking with distance. I turned to Branson. This better be good. It's not good, Selena. It's not good at all. The silence in our car felt thick, like a third presence wedged tightly between us. Branson drove with mechanical precision, eyes locked on the road ahead. Outside, the spring sunshine spilled golden over manicured lawns and budding trees, cheerful, almost mocking, against the tension growing in the car. Are you going to tell me what that was about? I finally said, the words cutting through the stillness. Or should I just guess? Branson's jaw flexed. Give me a minute to figure out how to say this. Say what? That you embarrassed me in front of everyone I care about? That you pulled me out of my best friend's baby shower like we were fleeing a crime scene? He didn't respond. Just flicked the turn signal with too much force and merged onto the highway. Branson, I said again, softer this time. Whatever it is, just tell me. He exhaled slowly, and I saw his shoulders drop just a little. Not until we're halfway home. I need you focused, not distracted by traffic. You're scaring me. I'm sorry. He reached across the console, gave my hand a quick squeeze. That's not my intention. We drove in silence for 15 more minutes. The cookie-cutter suburban homes gave way to open countryside. The road stretched longer, emptier. Then we passed the midpoint marker, a rusty, sun-bleached billboard for a diner that had been closed for years. Branson finally spoke. Clarissa's not pregnant. I turned to him, blinking, waiting for the punchline. When none came, I let out a short, incredulous laugh. What are you talking about? We were just at her baby shower. I saw her belly. You saw something, he said, his voice distant, clinical. But it wasn't a 7-month pregnancy. That's insane. I shifted in my seat, twisting to face him. I've known Clarissa since we were 6 years old. I think I'd know if she was faking a pregnancy. Would you? He asked quietly. His eyes flicked to mine, then back to the road. When was the last time you actually touched her stomach? The question hit like a slap. I opened my mouth to answer, then closed it again. I searched my memory, the announcement dinner, the gender reveal party, shopping trips for maternity clothes. There had been hugs, but they were always angled. Always brief. Always careful. She doesn't like people touching her belly, I said, a little too quickly. Lots of pregnant women don't. That's convenient. Stop it, I snapped. This is ridiculous. You can't possibly think Clarissa is faking this. What would even be the point? Branson let out a heavy breath. The man at the gift table, that was Dr. Nathaniel Harmon. I blinked. Okay, he's an obstetrician at my hospital. So, maybe he's her doctor. He's not. Branson's tone was sharp now. He works exclusively at Mercy General. Clarissa goes to St. Elizabeth's Medical Center. You told me that yourself, when she first announced. I frowned. Maybe she switched doctors. Selena, Branson said gently, his voice softer now. He recognized me. We made eye contact, and he looked concerned. Deeply concerned. Concerned about what? I asked, my voice sharp. I don't know exactly, he admitted. But after that, I overheard Alaric on the phone in the hallway, near the bathroom. Branson's hands tightened on the wheel again. He said, and I quote, she's starting to believe it herself. We need to speed this up. A chill prickled at the back of my neck. That could have been about anything. Then explain the medical reports I saw in Clarissa's home office last week, he said, when we were helping them move furniture. You were snooping through their papers? I asked aghast. They were out on the desk, Selena. Blood test panels. And they weren't consistent with pregnancy. You had no right. I'm a doctor. I know what I saw. Anger surged through me, sharp and hot. So what? You think this is all some elaborate hoax? That my best friend is walking around with a fake bump, pretending to be pregnant? Do you even hear how crazy that sounds? More than crazy, he said. Possibly pathological. This is, I sputtered, searching for words that wouldn't come. This is jealousy. Branson's face hardened. That's not fair, isn't it? Ever since we got married, you've made comments. About how much time I spend with her. About how she calls too late, always needs something. Because she's manipulative. His voice rose, sharp for the first time. She uses you, Selena. She always has. Pull over, I said, my voice like ice. What? Pull over. Branson guided the car onto the shoulder, put it in park, but left the engine running. We sat there in heavy silence, the air conditioner humming softly between us. I don't want to fight, he said finally. I'm telling you what I observed because I'm worried. For you. For her, even. I turned to stare out the window, blinking hard against the tears rising in my throat. You're wrong about this. I hope I am. His voice was quiet now. But think about it. Really think. When did she announce? January, I murmured. That's 7 months ago. Has her body changed the way a pregnant woman's would? Not just her stomach, her face, her ankles, her overall weight. I pictured Clarissa at the shower. Her slender arms, her defined jawline, her slim ankles wrapped in delicate strappy heels. Pregnant women retained water. Their faces rounded, ankles swelled. Their bodies changed, not just in their bellies. She's always been thin, I said weakly. She's not drinking. Because of doctor's orders. Not morning sickness, he said. Have you ever heard her mention it? Or food aversions? Back pain. I hadn't. Clarissa's pregnancy had been, by her own account, practically magical. No symptoms, no discomfort, no complications. And that nursery, Branson continued. Everything's still in packaging. Nothing assembled. Almost like it's for show. Stop. I pressed my hands to my ears, like a child refusing to listen. Just stop. He fell silent. I sat there, breathing hard, fighting him, and something else. Something quieter, colder. Slowly, unwillingly, I began to let myself consider the things he'd said. The careful way Clarissa always angled herself in photos. How she never seemed to need a bathroom break, despite supposedly carrying a 7-month fetus pressing on her bladder. The way she changed the subject whenever I asked specific questions about her prenatal care suddenly took on a new weight. Why? I whispered, dropping my hands. Why would anyone do this? I don't know, Branson admitted. Attention? Money? That shower wasn't cheap. And she said most things were donated. What does that even mean? The extravagance of it all replayed in my mind. The professionally catered food, the designer decorations, the mountain of expensive gifts. Clarissa's nonprofit focused on maternal health in underserved communities. Could there be a connection? I need to know for sure, I said finally. Branson nodded, putting the car back in drive. So do I. As we merged onto the highway again, doubt crept in like a fog, soft but relentless, obscuring the certainties I'd built my life around. I had known Clarissa longer than I'd known anyone outside my family. We'd shared everything, first periods, first kisses, college anxieties, wedding jitters. She was the sister I never had. But there had always been something a little performative about Clarissa, something that needed an audience. In high school, her heartbreaks had been dramatic and public. Her victories? Loudly celebrated. Even her proposal from Alaric had been elaborately staged, rose petals, a violinist, a hired photographer, all for social media. I keep thinking about what her mother said, Branson murmured, breaking into my thoughts. A blessing after long silence. What silence? I asked. Clarissa's never mentioned fertility issues. No, he agreed. She hasn't. My phone buzzed in my lap. A text from Clarissa. Miss you already. Lunch Tuesday, Justice girls, so much to tell you. I stared at it. So much to tell you. What hadn't she told me already about this pregnancy? The rest of the drive passed in contemplative silence. By the time we pulled into our driveway, the sun had started to set, washing the sky in shades of orange and pink. What now? I asked as Branson cut the engine. He turned to me, his face somber in the fading light. That's up to you. She's your friend. I nodded slowly. I need to find out the truth. Whatever that is, he said. We'll face it together. That night, I lay awake long after Branson's breathing settled into the steady rhythm of sleep. My mind replayed every interaction with Clarissa from the past 7 months, trying to see what I'd missed. The giddy excitement in her voice when she'd called to say she was pregnant. The way she declined my offers to accompany her to doctor's appointments. The vague responses when I asked about due dates or test results. By morning, I had made a decision. I needed to see for myself. The day after the shower dawned bright and clear. Branson left early for his hospital shift, leaving me alone with my restless thoughts. I paced the kitchen, coffee growing cold in my mug as his words echoed through my mind. Could it be true? Could Clarissa, the person I trusted more than anyone besides my husband, be living such an elaborate lie? I picked up my phone and scrolled through recent pictures of her. In every one, she was glowing, hands cradling her bump, smile radiant. But the more I looked, the more I noticed patterns. She always wore flowing dresses, oversized tops, always stood at a flattering angle, always kept a slight, intentional distance between herself and anyone else. Before I could second-guess myself, I typed out a message. Left my shawl at your place yesterday. Okay if I swing by to grab it. Her response came almost immediately. So sorry, not home now. Doctor appointment in the city. Miranda is there though. She can let you in. Perfect. Clarissa's younger sister was less guarded, less polished. If anyone might slip up and reveal something, it would be Miranda. I grabbed my purse and keys, mentally constructing a pale blue shawl I would pretend to find. Something delicate. Forgettable. The drive to Clarissa's house felt longer than usual, each mile marker ticking past like a countdown clock to a confrontation I wasn't entirely sure I was ready for. Clarissa and Alaric lived in a beautifully restored Victorian at the edge of town, a wedding gift from her parents they'd spent years renovating. When I pulled into the circular driveway, Alaric's sleek black car was gone. Just Miranda's beat-up Civic sat crooked in the carport. I knocked, heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Footsteps approached, then the door swung open. Miranda stood there, her hair in a messy bun, wearing sweatpants and one of Clarissa's old college t-shirts. "Selena," she said, blinking in surprise. "What are you doing here?" "I left my shawl yesterday," I said, forcing a smile. "Clarissa said you could let me in to look for it." "Oh." Miranda hesitated for a moment, then stepped aside. "Sure, come in. It's probably in the living room with all the shower stuff." I stepped inside. The difference was stark. Gone were the guests, the laughter, the shimmer of excitement that had filled the air yesterday. Without it, the house felt hollow, staged. "Sorry about the mess," Miranda said, gesturing toward the coffee table where a half-eaten breakfast sat, toast, some kind of scrambled eggs, and a mostly empty mug. I wasn't expecting company. No witties or whatever. I gave a polite chuckle and nodded, slowly scanning the room as if searching for the non-existent shawl. "The shower was beautiful," I said casually. "You all must have worked so hard." "Mostly the event planner," she said, shrugging. "Clarissa had very specific requirements." "I'm sure she did." I drifted toward the dining room. A bottle of red wine sat open on the table, next to a plate with half a steak. "Late breakfast?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. Miranda flushed. "Alaric's. From last night. Steak and red wine." I tilted my head slightly. "Bit heavy for Clarissa these days, isn't it?" "Oh, she didn't." Miranda stopped abruptly, her eyes widening. "I mean, she had something else. Pregnancy-friendly." I nodded, storing the slip. "Where's Clarissa today?" I asked lightly. "She mentioned a doctor's appointment." "Yeah," Miranda said, shifting her weight from one foot to the other. "She went to a clinic out of town. Special monitoring or something." Her voice wavered just enough. "Is everything okay with the baby?" I pressed, keeping my tone concerned but calm. "Phoenix, everything's fine." The answer came too fast, too polished. "Just routine." "That's good to hear." I wandered toward the stairs. "Mind if I check upstairs for my shawl? Maybe it ended up in the nursery somehow." "I'll come with you," Miranda said quickly, too quickly, as she followed me up the stairs. The nursery was just as I remembered it. Immaculate. Now that I was really looking, I saw it differently. Nothing had been used. Boxes still taped shut. Crib pieces wrapped in plastic. Mattress propped against the wall, still sealed. Even the baby clothes neatly folded in the dresser drawers had tags still attached. "It's like a showroom," I murmured, trailing my fingers along the smooth edge of the changing table. "Clarissa wants everything perfect before she opens anything," Miranda explained behind me. "You know how she is." "I thought I did," I said softly. Miranda turned and moved toward the closet to check for my imaginary shawl. I noticed something behind the changing table, a small journal, wedged tightly between the wall and the furniture as if it had slipped and been forgotten. When Miranda turned her back to check the closet, I reached out quickly and slipped it into my purse, my fingers trembling. "Not here," Miranda announced, straightening. "Maybe downstairs in the coat closet." "Sure," I said, my voice careful, casual. We returned downstairs, and I made a show of checking near the entryway and under cushions. I even peered into the coat closet, pulling open the door just enough to keep the illusion alive. "I should get going," I said at last, stepping back. "I probably left it in the car after all." "I'll tell Clarissa you stopped by," Miranda offered, walking me to the door. "Please do." I paused on the threshold. "Miranda, is everything really okay with Clarissa? She seems different lately." Something flickered across her face, fleeting but unmistakable. "Fear. She's going through a lot," she said carefully. "But she'll be fine. She always is. If she needs anything, you'll be the first to know," Miranda finished for me, smiling. But her eyes didn't match the curve of her mouth. I nodded and stepped outside. I was halfway to my car when I heard voices coming from the side of the house. I froze. Instinctively, I ducked behind a large hydrangea bush just beneath the kitchen window. Clarissa's voice, clear, sharp, carried out into the garden. "I don't care what he thinks. This will be over after the donation clears." My blood turned to ice. "Donation? What donation?" I crept closer, crouching low, the leaves brushing my face. Her voice dropped, muffled now, but I caught fragments. "Not backing out now. Too much invested." Then, the crunch of footsteps on gravel. Panic surged in my chest. I scrambled back toward my car, heart hammering. Just as I slid into the driver's seat and yanked the door shut, Clarissa rounded the corner of the house. She had her phone pressed to her ear, but her gaze was fixed, directly on me. Her face, so often warm and expressive, was set in something unfamiliar. Calculating. Cold. And her free hand? It wasn't resting on her belly. It hung loosely at her side. I started the engine and pulled away, hands gripping the wheel tightly. In the rearview mirror, I saw her watching my car as it turned the corner. Once I was safely down the street, I pulled over and grabbed my phone. Branson answered on the first ring. "You might be right," I said, my voice shaking. "Something's definitely off." "What happened?" His concern came through instantly, grounding me. "I went to her house, found a journal, heard her say something about a donation clearing and it being over after that." There was a pause. "Did you see any medical paperwork? Anything concrete?" "No," I admitted. But Miranda was acting weird. And there was a bottle of red wine and a steak dinner on the table. Not exactly pregnancy food. And the nursery? "Nothing's been opened, Branson. It's all still in boxes. Still wrapped in plastic." "Keep the journal," he said. "We might need it as evidence." "Evidence of what?" I asked, suddenly afraid of the answer. "What exactly do you think is happening here?" Branson's voice was grim. "Best case, some kind of delusional episode. Worst case, fraud." After we hung up, I just sat there in the driver's seat, staring down at Clarissa's journal in my lap. Opening it felt like a betrayal. But not opening it felt like a different kind of betrayal. Like enabling something dark. I took a breath. A long, deep one. Then flipped to the first page. "My dearest daughter, though you're not yet in my arms, you're already in my heart. Each day I wait for you is a day closer to holding you. They don't understand. They say it's not possible, that I should accept reality. But mothers know. Mothers always know. Your room is ready. Your family is waiting. All we need now is you. With eternal love, your mother." The entry was dated 3 years ago. I flipped through more pages. Each one was a letter to a child who didn't exist. Some were hopeful, some angry, some desperate. The most recent entry, dated just 2 weeks ago, sent chills down my spine. "My miracle girl, they've all finally accepted your coming. The donations are flowing in. Soon we'll have everything we need to bring you home properly. Just a little longer now, and no one will be able to take you away from me again. Forever yours, Mommy." What had happened 3 years ago? Clarissa and Alaric had only been married a few months then. Had there been a pregnancy no one knew about? A loss. My phone buzzed. A text from Clarissa. "Saw you driving away. Did you find your shawl?" I froze, staring at the screen, unsure how to respond. Before I could decide, another text came through. "Selena, I need to tell you something. Something I haven't told anyone else. Can we meet tomorrow? Somewhere private? I've been keeping a secret for too long, and you're the only one I trust with the truth." My heart thudded. A mixture of dread and something colder, vindication, washed over me. Whatever was happening with Clarissa, I was about to find out. With trembling fingers, I replied, "Of course. Name the time and place." Her response came immediately. "The cabin at Lake Morrison. Noon. Come alone." The cabin. Her family's summer place. Isolated. Private. The perfect spot for a confession or a confrontation. I started the car again, the journal secure in my purse, and drove home with the weight of 20 years of friendship pressing down on me. By the time I pulled into our driveway, I had made up my mind. I would meet Clarissa, hear her out, and then decide what to do. Branson was waiting for me in the kitchen, still in his scrubs, his expression drawn. One look at my face, and he knew. "You found something," he said. Not a question. A lot of somethings. I sank into a chair at the kitchen table and slid the journal toward him. He read silently, his brow furrowing deeper with each page. When he finished, he closed it carefully and set it down between us like it might detonate. "Whatever you're walking into tomorrow," he said, his voice quiet, "be careful. If she's been living this delusion for 3 years. She's still Clarissa," I insisted, though I wasn't sure anymore what that even meant. "She's still my friend." Branson reached across the table and took my hand. "People who are drowning will pull down anyone trying to save them," he said. "Remember that." That night, before falling into a restless sleep, I left him a voicemail. "I think you're right about everything. I'm scared of what I'll find out tomorrow." In my dreams, I stood alone in Clarissa's perfect nursery, watching as she rocked an empty blanket, singing lullabies to no one at all. The drive to Lake Morrison took 40 minutes. Each mile stretched out, my anxiety mounting with every turn. I'd barely slept, turning over possibilities in my mind until dawn painted the horizon in muted pink. Branson had offered to come with me, but this was something I needed to face alone. Whatever this turned out to be. The lake was peaceful in the late spring sunlight, its surface rippling with soft waves that caught the light. The Warren family cabin sat nestled among tall pines on the eastern shore, its weathered wood and stone chimney unchanged since childhood. A fixture of my most treasured memories. Clarissa and I had spent countless summers here, swimming, gossiping, dreaming of our futures. As I pulled into the gravel driveway, her white SUV was already parked under the carport. My stomach twisted. There was no turning back now. I approached the cabin slowly, my footsteps crunching on the gravel, taking in details I'd missed on previous visits. The porch swing where we'd once whispered secrets now looked abandoned, its chains rusted, one hanging slightly askew. Flower pots that used to overflow with petunias and lavender sat bone-dry and cracked. The welcome mat was faded beyond recognition, edges curled, letters worn to a smudge. Before I could knock, the door opened. Clarissa stood there in a simple white sundress. No baby bump, no radiant glow. Just Clarissa, barefaced, her blue eyes rimmed with red. "You knew," she said softly. Not a question. I nodded, throat too tight for words. She stepped aside. "Come in." I hesitated only a moment before crossing the threshold. The cabin's interior was cool and dim, sunlight slipping between half-closed blinds and thin, dusty beams. Everything smelled faintly of cedar and thyme. "I should have realized," she said, her voice trailing behind me. "Branson would figure it out. Doctors notice things." She moved toward the worn leather couch and curled her legs beneath her the way she used to during late-night college talks. For a second, it looked like the old days, just the two of us. But nothing about this felt innocent. "Do you hate me?" she asked. I remained standing, unsure of the script for this moment. How do you respond to a question like that? "I don't hate you," I said slowly. I don't understand." She laughed. A brittle sound, almost foreign. "That makes two of us." I watched her pour water from a pitcher into a glass, her hands steady. "No wine today. No charade." "I wasn't always lying," she began, staring into the water. "A year ago, I was pregnant. For real." My breath caught. "What?" 8 weeks, she said, eyes still downcast. "We hadn't told anyone yet. We were waiting for the first trimester." Her voice was flat, emotionless. "It happened on a Tuesday. Augustus was in London for work. I was alone." I moved toward her, instincts overriding caution. "Clarissa, why didn't you call me?" She looked up, but only briefly. "Because you'd just announced your promotion at the counseling center. Everyone was so proud of you." She shrugged, the movement small and weary. "I didn't want to steal your moment." That old guilt twisted inside me, sharp and familiar. The push and pull of our friendship, where my joy always seemed to come at her expense. Where her pain never quite found its place beside mine. "After the miscarriage, I fell apart," she said, quieter now. "But secretly, no one knew. Except Augustus and my doctor." I lowered myself onto the couch, careful to leave space between us. "And then, I stopped accepting it," she said, almost dreamily. "I started talking to the baby like she was still there. Buying things. Planning." Her hands fluttered to her stomach, still flat, still empty. "Augustus was worried, but he went along with it. At first, he thought it was grief. When did it become this?" I gestured helplessly, at her, at the cabin, at the tangled mess of it all. She sighed. 3 months ago, I was supposed to speak at a maternal health fundraiser for the nonprofit. You remember?" I nodded. "You said you had food poisoning." "Another lie," she said with a sad smile. "I had a panic attack. All found me in the bathroom, hyperventilating. I kept saying I couldn't go out there. Couldn't tell them I'd failed." Her voice dropped lower. "And then he said, 'What if you didn't have to?'" My stomach turned. "He suggested you fake it." "Not exactly." Her eyes met mine, empty and tired. "He said I could say I was newly pregnant, just to get through the event. We'd announce a loss later, after I'd had time to process. Privately." "But you didn't stop," I said. "No," she admitted. "Because it felt so good, Selena. The congratulations. The attention. The way people looked at me again. Like I was someone special." I stared at her, at the version of my friend unraveling before me. "So you kept going." She nodded. "It snowballed. One event turned into another. A small bump became a bigger one. And then, the donations," I said. She stood abruptly, moved to the desk in the corner, and returned with a folder. Her hand shook as she opened it on the coffee table. "Here," she said, spreading papers across the surface. "See for yourself." I glanced down. Documents. Spreadsheets. Signed checks. Donation receipts from local businesses and individuals. Amounts that made my chest tighten. "These all went to your nonprofit?" I asked. She nodded. "New beginnings. Maternal care." She looked up at me, eyes clear but worn. "The foundation is real," she said, as if needing me to believe it. "The work we do is real. We provide prenatal care to women in underserved communities. What isn't real is," she trailed off. "You?" I finished quietly. "Your pregnancy." She nodded, eyes downcast. "I don't understand. Why would your pregnancy affect donations to your nonprofit?" "Because of who the donors are." Clarissa rifled through the papers on the coffee table, pulling out several checks. I recognized the names immediately: the Graves Foundation, the Williams Trust, Hampton Healthcare Services. "They all have one thing in common," she said, her voice tightening. I scanned the checks. The names clicked into place. A lump formed in my throat. They all lost children, I whispered. Or grandchildren. Or siblings. Clarissa nodded. They donate to maternal health care because of personal tragedy. And they connect with me because they think I understand their fear. The fear of losing a child. The calculation behind it all stunned me. So the baby shower was a fundraiser, she said simply. Every gift, every decoration, all donated by companies that support new beginnings. They get tax write-offs and publicity. We get supplies for our clinics. I stared at her, trying to reconcile this woman with the one I'd grown up beside. My mind spun, cycling through every moment I had mistaken for sincerity. It's manipulative, I said finally. Deceptive. She didn't deny it. But is it criminal? I asked aloud, more to myself than her. Before she could respond, my phone buzzed. I pulled it from my pocket. A text from Branson. The obstetrician just emailed me. He says he filed a fraud report. My heart dropped. Clarissa must have read the shift in my face. Bad news? She asked. I didn't speak. I just turned my phone screen toward her. She read the message, and the color drained from her face. Who else knows? I asked quietly. Just Augustus. And Miranda. She figured it out last month. Her voice broke as tears welled in her eyes. Selena, I can't go to jail. The foundation will collapse. All those women we help, they'll have nothing. You should have thought of that before you started this. This performance. I know. She wiped her face, but more tears followed. I know it was wrong, but I'll make it right. Once the final donation from Graves clears, it's for a new ultrasound machine for a mobile unit. I'll announce that I lost the baby. Her voice was steady now, chillingly so. There'll be sympathy, not suspicion. No one will question it. I stared at her, horrified. This wasn't just grief or delusion. This was calculation. And what about everyone who cares about you? I asked. The people who've cried with you, planned with you, shopped for you. What about their feelings? They'll recover, she said flatly. People always do. I'm not sure I will. Something flickered in her eyes, a flash of the girl I once knew. I need you, Selena. You're the only person who won't abandon me over this. The only one who will understand. I felt the weight of our shared history like an anchor. Sleepovers, late-night phone calls, graduation caps tossed into the air, weddings, heartbreaks, secrets. I'll think about it, I said, rising and gathering my purse. But, Clarissa, this has to stop. Today. She nodded, desperation painted across her face. Anything you want. Just don't tell anyone else. Please. I left her standing there. As I drove away, the cabin shrank behind me in the rearview mirror. It felt like I was leaving a part of myself behind too. The Clarissa I knew was gone. My phone rang through the car speakers. Branson, I answered. You were right. I said before he could speak, about everything. Are you okay? His concern warmed the chill that had settled in my chest. No, I admitted. I'm really not. Come home, he said softly. We'll figure this out together. But as I drove, a question began to nag at me. Something about the donation from Graves Clarissa had mentioned. The name was familiar, not just from the donor list. I took the next exit and pulled into the parking lot of a small coffee shop. My hands trembled slightly as I searched my phone contacts. There it was, Penelope Graves, the stern widow I'd met at the Bright Futures Gala last year. She had taken an interest in my work with grieving parents, even given me her card. Before I could second-guess myself, I tapped her number and pressed the phone to my ear. Mrs. Graves? This is Selena West. We met at the Bright Futures Gala last spring. I swallowed, forcing the words out. I was wondering if I could ask you about a donation you made to New Beginnings Maternal Care. 30 minutes later, I sat stunned in my car, Mrs. Graves' words echoing in my ears. Clarissa promised the baby would be named after my late husband, Edward, for a boy, Edwina for a girl. She said it would be a living memorial to him. That the baby's father, Augustus, had agreed. I couldn't speak. My mouth had gone dry. This wasn't just about faking a pregnancy or misleading donors. This was emotional blackmail, strategic manipulation of grieving families. My hands gripped the steering wheel tightly as a realization settled over me like wet cement. I couldn't protect Clarissa anymore. 3 days later, the post appeared on a local community forum. Fraud alert, local nonprofit director faking pregnancy to secure donations. I didn't write it. Neither did Branson. But the damage was instant. Within hours, the story had spread across our small town. Screenshots flooded social media. The local news picked it up by the next morning. Clarissa's phone went straight to voicemail. Augustus's accounts vanished. Branson was pulled in to speak with the hospital administration, and so was Dr. Harmon, the obstetrician from the baby shower. I didn't say anything specific. Branson told me that evening, his voice tired as he loosened his tie. Just confirmed that as a medical professional, I had concerns about the authenticity of her condition. This is a nightmare. I murmured, scrolling through the flood of comments online. Some people were furious, shocked, disgusted. Others were sympathetic, suggesting mental illness, grief, trauma. But many called for criminal charges. How did this get out? Branson asked, looking over my shoulder. You didn't tell anyone besides me, right? And Mrs. Graves, I admitted. But she wouldn't have posted it. She was horrified, embarrassed. Then it had to be someone else. Someone at the shower, maybe? Or, he hesitated. Maybe Miranda. Maybe. It didn't matter now. The result was the same. Clarissa's carefully constructed world was imploding, and I was watching it happen like a bystander to a slow-motion crash. The letter arrived the next day, hand-delivered. I knew the handwriting immediately. Selena, I know what you did. I trusted you with my truth, and you betrayed me, just like everyone else eventually does. Don't bother denying it. You were always jealous. Of my life, my marriage, my success. You pretend to be supportive, but deep down, you've been waiting for me to fail. Well, congratulations. You've destroyed everything I built. I hope you're satisfied. Clarissa, no apology, no remorse, just blame. Shifted onto me like a burden I hadn't asked for. I crumpled the letter in my hands. And as I did, a memory surfaced, unbidden. Junior year of high school. Clarissa fainting dramatically in the cafeteria after her boyfriend broke up with her. The ensuing chaos. The ambulance. The whispers in the hallways for a week after. And then, later, her quiet confession to me in the girls' bathroom. I just needed everyone to see how much he hurt me. I'd excused it then. I'd excused so many things over the years. The borrowed clothes never returned. The boyfriend she'd openly flirted with. The plans canceled last minute when better options came along. Always with that same charming smile. That effortless way she had of twisting everything until you doubted your own frustration. Until you found yourself forgiving her, again. The doorbell rang, sharp and unexpected, cutting through the haze of memory. I flinched. When I opened the door, Sasha stood there. Gone were her flowing scarves and colorful bangles. She wore jeans and a plain t-shirt, hair pulled back, her face drawn and pale. Can I come in? She asked, voice low. I nodded, stepping aside. In the kitchen, I poured 2 mugs of coffee. Neither of us drank at first. I feel like such an idiot, she said finally, voice raw. I looked up. I lent her $3,000, she added, eyes glassy with shame. My hand froze around my mug. What? Sasha nodded slowly, as if she'd been waiting for someone to react with the disbelief she hadn't let herself feel. For the nursery. She said it was temporary. That a big interior design commission was coming through, and she just needed to pay the contractor to secure the slot. Oh, Sasha. I know. She swiped at her eyes. But she's always paid me back before. And she was so excited, Selena, about making everything perfect for the baby. I didn't speak. I just waited. There is no baby, is there? She asked, her voice cracking. No, I said gently. There isn't. Sasha took that in with a long, measured breath. Was there ever? A year ago, I said. She miscarried. Early. Sasha sat with that, nodding slowly. That makes more sense than whatever this is. I could see the gears turning in her mind. The memories she was replaying. Did she approach anyone else? I asked. Opal maybe. Sasha hesitated. They had lunch a few weeks ago. Clarissa was really focused on her afterward. Brought her up more than once. I made a mental note. If Clarissa had been targeting our friend group for money, this was spiraling into something darker. After Sasha left, I called Opal. She picked up on the first ring. I've been expecting your call, she said, voice calm but firm. You want to know if she asked me for money too? Did she? Not directly. But she talked at length about the foundation's work, how they needed a mental health component, how perfect I would be to consult. And I offered to volunteer. She seemed disappointed. You saw through it. Professional hazard, she said. I notice when someone's performing instead of being. She paused, then added quietly, Selena, in my professional opinion, Clarissa shows traits consistent with Munchausen syndrome. Isn't that when people fake illnesses for attention? Yes. But in this case, she paused again, careful with her words. It's almost like Munchausen by proxy, except the proxy is her own identity, as a mother. She's built a reality where she receives sympathy, attention, even money, all centered around a child that doesn't exist. I close my eyes. What happens to someone like that without help? The lies escalate. The stakes rise. Eventually, her voice dropped. It all comes apart. No one's heard from her since the story broke. I admitted. She sent me a letter. Blamed me for everything. Classic deflection. Opal said. She can't face her own culpability. When we hung up, I sat there in silence, phone still in my hand. Then it buzzed again. Gage. I picked up immediately. Selena, his voice was ragged, breathless. Have you heard from Clarissa? No. I said, fear coiling. Have you? Not since yesterday. She called me crying. I couldn't understand most of it. She was frantic. And he choked back something. I knew something was wrong. For months I knew. But I didn't have proof. And Mom and Dad wouldn't listen. It's not your fault, Gage. Isn't it? His voice cracked. She's my sister. I should have pushed harder. There was a long pause. The police are involved now, he said quietly. Someone filed fraud charges. My stomach turned. Already. Multiple donors, he confirmed. Apparently they all came forward at once. And Selena, his voice broke completely now, she's gone. Gone. Cleaned out her accounts this morning and disappeared. I gripped the phone tighter. What about Augustus? Gage sighed. He says she left him too. But he seems more angry than worried. That told me everything I needed to know about their marriage. After we hung up, I called Branson at the hospital. Clarissa's missing, I said, skipping any pleasantries. His voice dropped. Missing how? Disappeared. Accounts emptied. No one's heard from her. A long pause. She might come to you, he said eventually. Why would she? She blames me for exposing her. Because you're her constant, he said gently. Her emotional safety net. Even when she's pushing you away, she's really pulling you closer. His words stayed with me all evening. I couldn't sit still. I paced from room to room, checking the windows, jumping at every noise. The rain started around 9, soft at first, then pounding against the roof with insistence. By midnight, I was alone. Branson had been called in for emergency surgery, leaving the house too quiet, too vulnerable. I just decided to try sleeping when I heard it. A knock. Faint. Almost timid. I held my breath. Then again, so soft it was nearly swallowed by the rain. I crept to the door and peeked through the peephole. It was her. Clarissa. Soaked. No umbrella. Hair matted to her face. No mascara. No jewelry. Just a drenched, shaking silhouette of the woman I used to know. I opened the door. She said nothing. She didn't even blink. She just stared at me, vacant and lost. And then, like someone had cut her strings, she collapsed forward. I caught her before she hit the floor. She felt light. Too light. Her body sagged against mine, frail and weightless under her soaked clothes. I could feel the outline of her bones. Her ribs. Her shoulders. This wasn't someone 7 months pregnant. This was someone unraveling. I dragged her inside, wrapped her in a blanket. She sat on the couch like a ghost, unmoving, staring into space. I made tea. She didn't touch it. I asked questions. She didn't answer. So I stopped trying. I just sat beside her in silence and let the rain speak for both of us. After what felt like hours, she spoke. One sentence. Barely audible. Tell me what to do. I'll do it. I turned to look at her. And for the first time since all of this began, I didn't see my best friend. I saw a stranger wearing her face. When Branson came home at dawn, he found us exactly like that. Clarissa curled on the couch, me still in the armchair, awake and hollow. He took one look at her, then led me into the kitchen. They've issued a warrant, he said, low and serious. Fraud. Multiple counts. The Graves Foundation is pressing charges. I glanced toward the living room. She has nothing left, I murmured. No money, no home, no reputation. That's not our problem, he said, firm but not cruel. Selena, she manipulated grieving families. She took advantage of people's pain. She stole money under false pretenses. I nodded. I know. She needs to face consequences. And help. She can't stay here, he added, rubbing his forehead. I want her gone by noon. He didn't wait for my response. He kissed the top of my head, then left for his shift. I made coffee. Toast. Set the plate in front of her when I heard movement from the couch. Branson wants you gone by noon, I said, no softness left in me. She nodded, tearing at the toast, but not eating. Where will I go? You could turn yourself in. Start taking responsibility. A bitter, breathless laugh escaped her. They'll put me in jail. Maybe, maybe not. But running will only make it worse. She looked up at me, and for a moment, I saw it. A flicker of the old Clarissa, sharp and gleaming. A documentary producer called me yesterday, she said, her voice almost casual. Wants to interview us both. Deception and mental illness in the social media age. Offered good money. I stared at her. You can't be serious. Why not? She replied, shrugging weakly. At least I'd control the narrative. Even now, she was thinking about the performance. The audience. The attention. Clarissa, this isn't a PR problem, I snapped. It's not something you can spin or repackage. You lied to everyone who loves you. You exploited people's grief for money. For the foundation, she corrected automatically. I didn't even blink. The money went to the foundation, which you controlled, which enhanced your reputation, which gave you access to powerful people. I leaned forward, locking eyes with her. Stop lying to yourself, if to no one else. Something flickered, cracked in her face. What do you want from me, Selena? Tears. Confession? Self-flagellation? Will that make you feel better about abandoning me when I need you most? This isn't about me. It's always about you. Her voice rose suddenly, flushed red now. Perfect Selena with her perfect husband and perfect career and perfect moral compass. Never a mistake. Never a misstep. Do you have any idea what it's like to stand in your shadow, year after year? I sat still, absorbing the venom. Then, quietly, I've made plenty of mistakes, including letting this friendship get so unbalanced that you think you can manipulate me the way you do everyone else. I never manipulated you, didn't you? I shot back. The late-night crisis calls. The emergencies that always came when I had something important going on. The constant need for reassurance, validation, attention. She flinched like I'd slapped her. That's what friends do. They show up for each other. Friends, I echoed, not emotional vampires. We stared at each other across the kitchen table. 20 years of friendship stretched thin and fraying between us. She broke first. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I think there's something wrong with me. She looked down at her hands. I can't tell where the line is anymore. Between what's real and what's performance. Something in me softened, despite everything. I know, I said. That's why you need help, Clarissa. Real help. She was quiet for a long time. Then, almost childlike. I just wanted to be special again. Before I could respond, a sharp knock split the air. I turned to the window. A police cruiser. Her eyes went wide, panic blooming across her face. She was up in a second, chair scraping across the floor. No, she gasped, bolting toward the back door. I moved fast, caught her arm. Don't, I pleaded. It'll only be worse if you run. She twisted, desperate. Selena, please. I can't go to jail. I can't. I held her there, struggling, her breath heaving against mine. And then I had to choose. The friend I'd known for most of my life, or the truth I couldn't unsee. I'll speak for you, I said finally, letting her go. I'll tell them you came here voluntarily, that you were cooperative. It might help. She sagged against the wall, defeated. You really think I'm a monster, don't you? No, I said, shaking my head. I think you're lost, and I can't find you anymore. The next few hours passed in a blur. Police statements. Charges read aloud. Clarissa, hollow-eyed, let out in cuffs. My own testimony, measured, careful, a partial truth. Enough to be honest without making it worse. A half-truth for a half-life. Weeks turned into months. Clarissa took a plea deal, probation, restitution, community service, and mandatory psychiatric treatment. The foundation was dissolved, its remaining assets transferred to legitimate maternal health organizations. I testified as promised, walking the line between honesty and mercy. On the stand, I spoke clearly, my hands folded tightly in my lap as though I could hold everything together by sheer will. I described the miscarriage, the grief that had spiraled into delusion, and the genuine work the foundation had done despite its fraudulent fundraising. I left things out. Of course I did. I didn't mention the calculated way she targeted specific donors. I didn't talk about the journal entries tucked away in my closet, entries that suggested the deception hadn't been impulsive, but written out and rehearsed like a play. Some would call it perjury by omission. I called it the last act of friendship I could offer. 6 months after the baby shower that started it all, a letter arrived. Cream-colored envelope. Familiar looping script. It was from the psychiatric facility where Clarissa was now receiving inpatient care. Selena, they tell me writing this is part of my recovery. Acknowledging the harm I've caused. Accepting responsibility. Expressing genuine remorse rather than performative apology. I'm not sure I know the difference yet. I'm not sure I know who I am when no one is watching. But I do know this. You saved me. From myself. Not the way a friend would. Looking away, making excuses. The way a sister would. Hard truth and harder love. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect a response. But I needed you to know that in the wreckage of everything I destroyed, there is one thing I finally understand. The difference between being seen and being known. Clarissa. I read it once, then again, and then folded it carefully and placed it in the memory box on the top shelf of our bedroom closet. Inside that box, photos of us in braces and summer camp t-shirts, the friendship bracelets we made in 8th grade, and a swatch of pale blue cloth I'd torn from one of my scarves, the one I pretended to forget at her house. The excuse that had cracked everything open. Later that day, I drove to the venue where her baby shower had been held, a converted barn now empty, echoing with memory. I sat on the wooden steps as wind swept through the field, leaves spiraling in slow descent around me. The late autumn sun filtered through the trees, golden and distant. The laughter, the decorations, the gifts, it all felt so far away now. Like a dream I'd woken from and wasn't sure had ever been real. I thought about Clarissa, about what she'd become, about what I'd let her become. And then I thought about myself. How often I'd looked away. How many times I'd chosen to believe her version of things. How many warning signs I'd brushed off in the name of love, or history, or the fear of confrontation. She taught me something. In the end, some lies are told for love, but others are told because someone loved the attention more than the truth. Have you ever ignored the warning signs in a friendship, choosing comfortable lies over painful truths? Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.